These next foods that start with R are from English teacher Mike, but he tries to be funny sometimes. He is a great English teacher, but he gave me one R food that is one of my favorite foods of all. One I've never had, and one I don't even know if I should teach. It is so gross. In today's English lesson, you are going to learn how to talk about foods that begin with R in English. A couple weeks ago, I asked, what are your favorite foods that begin with R in English? And you responded. So throughout the English lesson, I will mention some people who answered that question. Let's begin with the first one. Nobody had this for an answer, but it is a radish. Now, a radish is a small, crunchy vegetable usually eaten raw. So raw means not cooked. It can be red, white, or purple, and it has a peppery taste. You know, like salt and pepper, the pepper part. It's just a little bit spicy. Radishes were first grown in Southeast Asia. Countries like Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. You probably have different names for those countries in your own language. So they've been grown in that part of the world for thousands of years, but they're now popular in pretty much all parts of the world. Please let me know in the comments, do you like radishes? I don't mind radishes, I just can't remember the last time I've eaten one. A lot of people will like to slice up radishes and put them in their salad to give their salad a little crunch. I often forget to do this, but if you are liking this video, do you mind hitting that like button? And if it's your first time here, please go ahead and subscribe. The second food I would like to talk about is a raisin. It is basically just a dried grape. It's sweet and chewy, and it comes in two different colors, purple and green. Raisins have also been around for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks and Romans liked eating raisins. They also used them for medicinal purposes. That's another way to say they used them like medicine. Raisins would often be used as decorations. If the ancient Greeks wanted to please one of their gods, they might have a very colorful plate of raisins for them. You can eat raisins as a snack. You can put them into baked goods. The next food I would like to talk about are raspberries. And if you notice how they are spelt, for some reason there is a P in the middle of raspberry, but trust me, we do not pronounce that P. Raspberries are usually red, but sometimes they come in black, maybe purple, maybe golden. I would describe them as sweet because they do have a lot of sugar, but they're also a little tart. Tart is almost like the opposite of sweet. In fact, if you taste something tart, your face might pucker like this. Lemons are sour, that's pretty extreme. Tart is in between sour and sweet. Raspberries can be eaten fresh, or they can be frozen so they will last a little longer. Some people like to put them in pies. Raspberry pie is really good. You could put them in yogurt. You could put them in a jam and you would make raspberry jam. The good thing about raspberries is that they are high in vitamins and they also have a lot of antioxidants. I think that might be a new word for you. Antioxidant is something that helps you fight cancer and heart disease. So it's always good to eat foods with lots of antioxidants. Not easy to say, antioxidants. Back in my classroom now, and I would love to talk about the next R food, which is Ratatouille. Guess what? This comes from France. It comes from a region called Provence. At least that's the way we say it in English. And ratatouille is a dish made with stewed vegetables. When you stew something in English, you cook it in liquid over low heat for a long period of time. That way, the flavors all mix together. Great if you are a vegetarian. It's a hearty meal. Do you know that word? Hearty? If a meal is hearty, you are not going to be hungry after you eat it. Some of the things you might see in a ratatouille are tomatoes, eggplant, onions, bell peppers, zucchini, and herbs. Let's go back to that eggplant for a second. If you speak British English, you call it something else. But in the United States, this thing is an eggplant. One of the few purple foods that I know. Ratatouille can be served on its own. If you want to make the meal even heartier, serve it with some bread. But it can also be used as a filling for omelets or crepes. Crepes. I don't know exactly how to say it in French, maybe crepes, but they're like really thin pancakes. And of course, I need to mention the Disney film from 2007 called Ratatouille. I believe it's about a rat that's a really good chef, and I think he lives in Paris. All right, the next food in English that starts with R is ravioli. And yes, I'm in a different shirt. It's a different day. I'm finding it hard to find time to film this lesson. So here we go, ravioli. Guess what country it is from? It is from Italy. And ravioli is basically pasta, 2 layers of pasta, and then you put something in between it. Could be cheese, it could be vegetables, maybe some type of meat. And yes, ravioli first started in Italy about 600 years ago. And the reason it started was because when Italians had leftovers, do you know what leftovers are? Let's say you have a meal, but you can't finish it. There is just too much food. Whatever you have left over becomes a leftover. So 600 years ago, Italians would put those leftovers in between those 2 layers of pasta. Now, ravioli is popular all over the world. It can be served with sauces like tomato sauce or butter sauce or cream sauce, and it's often topped with grated cheese. Do you know what grated means? It means to make it really small, and you use a grater to grate vegetables, cheeses, but it is possible to have a dish of ravioli and then grate cheese on top of it. And today I do have on a red shirt. Red starts with R. The next few foods are going to start with the word red. And the first of those is one of my favorites, red velvet cake. Red velvet cake is the newest food we've talked about so far. It started in the early 1900s, and guess where? The United States. If something is going to be unhealthy, there's a good chance it comes from the United States. Well, this cake is red, and originally it was red because a vegetable called beets were added to the cake. That is what gave it its red color. Nowadays, people just use food coloring to make it red. It is definitely one of my favorite cakes, but it's not the cake part that I like best. It is the frosting, and it is a special frosting called cream cheese frosting. It doesn't sound healthy at all, but trust me, it tastes amazing. The next R food also starts with red, and those are red beans. These are beans that are kidney shaped. You will hear that with beans sometimes. Kidney, that is an organ in English. And red beans have an earthy flavor. Earthy, it means like it tastes like it comes from the ground. A lot of vegetables that are grown underground have an earthy flavor. These red beans have been grown for thousands of years, and they probably started in Central or South America. Still very popular today. When I went to Brazil, I did have some red beans, and guess what is served with these red beans a lot of the time? It is rice. Red beans and rice. Ooh, rice. starts with R too. Red beans and rice is also very popular in the state of Louisiana. That is where you will find Creole food. New Orleans is a city famous for its Creole food. Red cabbage is the next food that starts with R. The best way to show you cabbage in English is to put up a picture. This cabbage is special because it has purple red leaves and it's known for its crunchy texture. And just like radishes, it has a slightly peppery flavor. Cabbage is normally green, so this red cabbage is a little special. Today, cabbage is used in salad, something called coleslaw. It's basically when you mix cabbage with mayonnaise, and you might also find it in stews or stir fries. Red snapper. Now in English, that is a snap. But red snapper is a type of fish. The fish part, the meat part of red snapper is actually white. The name comes from the fish's skin. Unlike salmon, where the fish part, the part you eat of the salmon, is actually red. And what about red peppers? Yeah, peppers can come in all types of colors, but since we're doing our foods in English, let's talk about red peppers. We have the common bell pepper that can come in red, but you can also have some really spicy peppers that are red. A couple popular peppers in English that are red are the red Thai chili and the cayenne pepper. Please let me know in the comments, do you like spicy peppers? I'm a guy that likes a little spice in some of my foods, but I wouldn't say I was a real big spice guy. I like my food a little more mellow. Hey look, we are outside now and it is a beautiful day, and the next 3 R foods come from English teacher Mike. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, but he is a great English teacher. And he gave me 3 R foods that I want to teach you. One of them kind of scares me. One of them is one of my favorite foods, and one I've never had. This first one, I'm really happy to teach you. It is Rocky Road ice cream. Rocky Road? I imagine you know what ice cream is in English. The flavor Rocky Road is chocolate ice cream, probably my favorite ice cream, but then you add some kind of nut, probably an almond and marshmallows. And that combination between the soft ice cream and the soft marshmallows, every so often you will get a crunchy almond, one of my favorite ice creams of all time. Again, if something is going to be unhealthy, it is probably going to be invented in the United States. It was invented during the Great Depression, which in English was a time in the United States where nobody had any money. This was right after World War I and right before World War II. And this ice cream was created to make people feel happier, even though they didn't have any money, and they probably didn't have a job. Thankfully, I wasn't born during the Great Depression, but I promise, every time I have Rocky Road ice cream, I do feel a little bit better. Unfortunately, my pants don't fit as well as they did before I had that bowl of ice cream. I've never had this next one that English teacher Mike sent to me, so I have some notes. This is called a rutabaga. Fun to say, rutabaga, but it is a cross between a cabbage and a turnip. And it is another one of those vegetables that is grown underground. So it does have an earthy flavor. It's round and its skin is purple and yellow. And according to these notes, there is a slightly nutty flavor that goes along with rutabaga. And the rutabaga was first grown in Russia and Scandinavia. When I think of Scandinavia, I think of countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. Even though I think people in Scandinavia don't think Finland is part of Scandinavia. So what do I know? I am just an American. Here comes the one that I'm a little worried about teaching, and this one is roadkill. Okay, think of those two words that make up roadkill, road and kill. These are animals that are trying to cross the road, but they probably were hit by a car and they died. Most Americans will not eat roadkill, but maybe if an American lives out in the country, far away from the city, they might want to eat roadkill. Unfortunately, over the past couple weeks, as I have driven into school in the morning, I have seen these animals called possums dead on the side of the road. I did not see any people stopping to pick them up and bring them home and eat them, luckily. Where I live, however, there is sometimes a certain type of roadkill that is eaten, and that is a deer. A lot of people where I live love the taste of deer meat, and unfortunately, a lot of them do get hit by cars. When a deer is hit by a car and the meat is still good, sometimes people will get that meat and bring it home. It can literally feed a family for a couple weeks. But there are rules about taking home a dead deer that was hit by a car, and it does involve people we call game wardens. They are like the police of the woods. Last week, on my way to school, there was a moose in the neighborhood where my school is. Now, luckily, this moose was able to be saved. It did get stuck in my daughter's friend's backyard, but the game wardens were able to get the animal unstuck and move it to a mountain where it is going to be safe. Nobody ate that moose. It did not get hit by a car. It did not become roadkill. So many subscribers submitted foods that started with R. Of course, English teacher Mike, Sita, Michael, Lulu, Tanya, Boris, Natalia, Nasaran, Yasitha. We didn't get to everybody. We will have to do a part 2. If you are still looking for more English lessons with foods that start with a certain letter, right up there, or maybe down there, is an entire playlist. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.